Hey gamers, welcome back to Fire Chicken Review. We have another Keyforge a little bit to talk about here, and that's because Ghost Galaxy has released a new news article talking about the new house and Winds of Exchange, and I want to talk about all the cards that were shown here. So I'll skip over all the little story bits, but they are interesting. I'll link below so that you can check those out yourself. But let's get straight into the cards, so we're getting into it, and I'm only going to talk about the cards. I'll talk about the top cards here in a bit, but we'll talk about these ones because they don't show up back in the article. So Diplomat, it's a little bit covered up here. It says it's elusive. It's only one power. Reap. Each player gains one amber. I think this card it's pretty bad overall. But even though it's a fairly bad card. What's interesting though is that the diplomat is a token creature, so I'm not sure what I think about this. I'm curious if it's linked to when you get this token creature, if it's linked to a different card that like gives you advantage because uh, reaping and allowing your both you and your opponent to gain an amber just doesn't seem like something that you're going to want to do. And so we'll have to wait and see why this diplomat is going to be useful in any means. And I think what it is, it's that it's going to be linked to something else that is going to say some sort of effect that is going to give you an advantage, because the whole idea of the Ekwidon is that they're replacing shadows, basically. And the Winds of Exchange, in which they talk about this article, is that it's giving you a give and take, so hopefully giving you a slight advantage over your opponent. But at the moment, playing a creature and both of you gaining an amber doesn't seem to give you advantage. But you can use the advantage of that if your opponent has so much amber. Potentially there's going to be some cards that have an effect, or maybe there's a card linked to this. So that's enough about this one. And then this 4-power creature that we see here, it says for the remainder of the turn, each friendly stranger shell gets plus 3 power and loses all abilities. So it's a rare card, and I think this is another card that is linked to something. I feel like it's very much like that the octopus card that we've seen in previous set, which had like tentacles. I'm wondering if it's similar to that, but I'm not too sure. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these two cards, and we'll get right into it, into going further into this. This just really goes into talking about what the Ekwidon's all about, that they're mostly made of these like bug-like creatures with like 4 arms. And I love the little story bits about like what their arms did, like the 3 slender fingers, the counting arm, and so forth. But I like that little story bit. It's pretty interesting. So I'll link the article, like I said. But getting into the cards, the Amber Rage here. So this is an artifact that says your keys cost plus 1 amber, and during your draw step, your hand size is increased by 1. So I think this card is actually going to have some interesting use. It is a rare card, which is great, only in the fact that I think it's a situational card, and you're not going to always want to see it in your deck. I think you're going to want to see it in some decks. And so there's been a few cards within Keyforge. It reminds me of the logos. It was like I can't remember the name of the card because I didn't do research beforehand, but there's a logos artifact that says both players get to increase their hand size. And of course, there's been a variety of creatures that allowed you to increase your hand size. So the give and take aspect here is that each turn you're going to be allowed to draw 1 additional card, but your keys are going to cost plus 1 because you have this artifact in play. So what's going to be useful about this card is that if you can get this in play as early as possible before you're starting to forge any keys, you're going to have that card advantage, and hopefully that card advantage outweighs the cost when you have to forge your 3 keys, right? So at the end of the day, it's only going to make a big difference when you're about to forge. So if you had been sitting on 6 amber, the issue though is that this default puts you to 7 amber, which is a trigger for a lot of cards from previous sets, and most likely in this set as well. So there is a bit of a disadvantage for that, but hopefully you're able to potentially destroy your own artifact or sacrifice it, or figure out a way to remove it. But yeah, I'm curious how this card's going to see play in the competitive scene. In casual play, I think it's perfectly fine. And then we get to closed door negotiations, which is an action card that says you get a bonus amber. Play, your opponent draws a card, steal 1 amber. And if you do, your opponent's and your opponent still has more amber than you, trigger this effect again. And it has a little thing saying within the shell, which is a bug expression for a private matter, which is funny because I think the closed door negotiation is that these two bug creatures, and I'm not going to say the name because I cannot pronounce that, are having a very close negotiation. So I like the thematic aspect of this. So as far as the card goes, what everyone is comparing this to, of course, is a bait and switch before it was errated. And now the key differences here is that a bait and switch didn't have a bonus amber on it, which inherently is going to be a little bit different here. So, for example, if you were at 3 amber and your opponent's was at 5 amber, what's going to happen as soon as you play this card, you're going to go to 4 amber, you're going to steal 1, and now they're going to be down to 4, so you wouldn't repeat this. So you would need to be at like 2 amber to their 5 or 3 to their 6 before the card is played, or whatever amount there. But then the other item that is the give and take, like once exchange is all about, is that your opponent is drawing a card, and this is a common card. So what common cards are in Keyforge, for a lot of the common cards, is that usually it means that the designers wanted the core mechanics of a specific house, like what is common theme for this set for this house, like what are we trying to show? So we're trying to show that in this the Ecuadorians, or the Ekwidons, sorry, I'm just gonna call them the bug house, until I get the name right. What they're all about is this negotiation and trade and trying to get one up your opponent, right? So in this case, you're saying, I'm stealing an amber, I'm gonna basically trade you the amber. It doesn't even feel like stealing. It's like your opponent. It should almost say like your opponent gives you an amber, but it's saying stealing so that the other card mechanics from previous sets trigger. From like if someone stole an amber, you get to do X, Y, Z potentially. So I totally understand that, but I kind of wish it did say give you an amber. But for actual game reasons, I understand why it says steal an amber. And what you're giving them an advantage is that they are allowed to draw a card. So this is a interesting card. It's going to have some interesting plays for sure, because gaining an amber or stealing an amber from your opponent is like a 2 amber swing, but your opponent is now drawing a card, which is an advantage. So there's a pro and a con. So the amber is the most important, but now your opponent is potentially drawing into answers. And so what you're going to see in competitive play is that you're going to have players that are really good at reading through decks, and they're going to say, what's the odds of them drawing into an answer? Did they already play all the answers? So a lot of people are going to potentially hold off unless they absolutely need to play this at moments when they think, it's not going to give them an advantage because maybe I have a board wipe or something in my hand that if they go wide after I steal like 2, 3 amber, and now they got these extra cards and they can play a bunch of cards, that I have a way around that. In casual play, I think it's going to be perfectly fine. It's going to bring up a lot of laughs when like someone steals potentially 4 or more amber. They're going to be like, I stole all this amber, and your opponent's going to be like, yeah, take all my amber. I got all these cards, and now I can do all kinds of crazy effects, like Merchant Generosity really is going to be happy with this. Data Forge, which is in logos, is going to be like, well, this basically each card is worth an amber to me. So it's going to have some interesting gives and takes. This is, to me, not nearly as strong as Bait and Switch. It's situational, but I think it's going to be exciting. And at the end of the day, when you're both sitting at 2 keys, or you really need to forge that last key, there's going to be some desperation plays where they're playing this. It's going to bring some big moments. So linking this card, though, in the article they talk about, well, what's going to be some advantages so that you can take advantage of this is that if you have this common card and hopefully this rare card, which wow, this card's really good. The Talent Scout is a 2-power creature that gives you 1 bonus amber. So it has a play effect and it gives you a bonus amber. So this is interesting. So get a bonus amber. And it says that this creature, when it's in play, counts as the active house, which just means it's Omni, basically. Look at your opponent's hand and play a creature from it as if it was yours. Your opponent takes control of Talent Scout. So what an interesting mechanic here. So there's a lot of give and take for this card as well. But even if I didn't have closed door negotiation, which like this combination is really good to see, like after you just stole some amber and you gave them the cards, like okay, now you know what your opponent is potentially up to for the next few turns, or at least 1 or 2 turns. Now you can potentially play one of their big creatures, or one of their creatures that would have been super useful. So that is a cool combination. And like what's going to be interesting, for example, is imagine playing against a Coda deck, stealing a bunch of amber, and then you're like, oh, I just found your Choda. And for those that don't know, Choda is like the Santa Claus of Untamed, and it says that when he comes into play, you can forge a key at current cost. So that could be such a fun move to get around some of the early Coda decks. But overall, even if you don't have closed door negotiations, I think Talent Scout is an excellent card, even if it wafts. And when I mean wafts, I mean even if you don't find a creature in your opponent's hand, the fact that you get to see your opponent's hand and you get an amber is card information in these games is super important to me, and gaining the amber is it's pretty good. Now the disadvantage is very interesting as well, is that your opponent is going to now gain this creature, and I have a feeling this house doesn't have too many ways of like on the damage end. But what you're most likely going to do is you're going to play a creature. It's going to come in exhausted, of course. You're going to give this to your opponent, but most of the times you want to also make sure that you can take out the Talent Scout. You want to crush the Talent Scout the same turn you play it. So that's a little bit of the advantage that you need to try to avoid, because for every turn your opponent has this, they get to use the Talent Scout, and they're most likely 9 out of 10 times just going to use it to reap. But what's going to be funny is that if you give it to your opponent, if you don't take care of it, if they have a bunch of upgrades and whatnot, maybe they put all these crazy upgrades to really buff it up, and now it's like an Omni creature they can use every single turn. So my recommendation is I would always want to try to take out my Talent Scout that I've given to my opponent right away. But overall, it's too bad that this is a rare card. Because I like this card quite a bit, because I love card knowledge, just being more of a competitive player. So let me know in the comments what you think of Talent Scout. To me, I think this is great. And then the last 2 cards we have here is Flea Market and Mass Bile. In Flea Market, oh man, this is another rare card, which is unfortunate because the rare cards for this house, for this bug house here, are hot looking. Like this is such a great one. So the Flea Market is a location. It says look at a random card in your opponent's hand. You may give your opponent 1 amber. If you do, play that card as if it was yours. What an awesome card. And I love the theme. It's so thematic. You're going to the flea market and you're like, hey, what's that you got there? Oh, you have a miasma? Oh yeah, I'd like to play that miasma against you. So I'll give you 1 amber, and you were about to forge a key, and now I'll do this, or I'll play whatever the card is. And the best part is there's no real disadvantage here. This is only information to me. And when you get lucky and you pull that card that your opponent was just about to play against you, and all you have to do is give them a single amber for it. I think this is going to be hilarious, and I think this is going to win some games, and it's going to bring up a lot of stories. Let me know what you think about the flea market. To me, I think this is going to be an absolutely fantastic card, because the worst thing that's going to happen is that you're going to use the action. You're going to see a card in your opponent's hand, and you're going to go, eh, it's not useful for me. But even if you don't have amber, just seeing a random card in your opponent's hand, it's still card information that you've gained. It's not going to be the most useful because you can't really do anything about that unless you have some other cards in play that you're going to use. But this is going to be a very interesting aspect. But if, like, for example, if you're always going to want to use this most likely first, depends on the situation. But if you randomly look at a card in your opponent's hand and they have like a board wipe, well, if you were just about to play all your creatures down, now you're going to strategically think like, oh, do I really want to play all my creatures, or do I want to do something else? And so that gives you some information. So I really like Flea Market. And then the last card that we have here is Mass Bio. Play, destroy each creature. Each player gains amber equal to half the number of creatures they control that were destroyed this way. Hey, I was just talking about playing Flea Market first, but this Mass Bio, and I love that the like there's these amber coins here, and I don't know, these almost look like I think this house may show up later, but I think this is like the I forget what they're called. Someone can mention it in the comments, but there's basically these mini creatures in Keyforge world, and they've showed up in previous sets as well. I remember they're on the Star Alliance card where they're on the remote. I'm pretty sure this is the same creatures from that house, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But Mass Bio, I think this is a fun, a very fun um, action card, and it's a very fun removal because if you just look at the cards that we just covered, if you use this with Flea Market and your opponent has Mass Buyout, and they have a board advantage, you could potentially use that, and you're going to say, okay, you destroyed 6 creatures, they gained 3 amber, which isn't a crazy amount, but maybe you had 0 creatures, and you can follow up with a closed door negotiation to start stealing some of that amber. Or if they had a bunch of token creatures, a bunch of things in play, say they had like 12 creatures wide, they get 6 amber, but you had nothing in play because they had wiped your board. Well, now you can make it even and destroy all their creatures, steal some of their amber here into your equal, and all these cards have interesting mechanics. But when you're comboing all of this, so what's interesting, because if you use the Flea Market to do that, you would have lost an amber at first, and now you're getting it back, stealing some amber. Like I said, there's some crazy things here, but now you're giving them 2 or 3 cards potentially or more from the closed door negotiation. So just seeing how these cards potentially work out is super interesting. And Mass Buyout is another common card, so that means that Mass Buyout, closed door negotiations are going to see a lot of play together. So you're going to wipe your opponent's board, then you're going to close door negotiations, but you're going to give your opponent some potential card advantage, which means that they could play a bunch of creatures out again. But hey, maybe you had a second Mass Buyout in your hand, and then on your you're going to do some other crazy mechanics. So overall, I think these are already some fun cards that we've seen from this house. I'm liking what I see from this new house that's replacing House Shadows, like I said. And as a reminder, the Game Found campaign is launching in 22 hours, 55 minutes, and 42 seconds here, or aka 8 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, Friday. And I'm super excited, so I will be making another video then. Until then, if you liked this video, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. We're going to be covering all kinds of Keyforge material, and I hope you're as excited for this campaign and for where Keyforge with this 6th set is going from here. That's all for now. Talk to you later.